All right, so we're going to get rolling. Thank you all so much for joining us. In these times when it's hard for us to be together physically, we wanted to come together and share some of the healing principles that Wade and Pete both practice and live by, and ideally help everyone connect and reconnect to chiropractic, why they came to chiropractic school, why they chose to be chiropractors, why they were called to be chiropractors, and how do we help serve the public in a way that gets them amazing results. And we're going to go into that a little bit as we go. And the first question I want to ask both Wade and Pete is, what is the most important thing for students and chiropractors to get to be successful in their practices in serving people?
You want to take it, Wade? Dr. Wade?
Go, Pete.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. The most important thing is, in my opinion, really is to remember that when someone comes in, you have a human being in front of you who's most likely suffering. So never put anything in front of getting them healthy. Like, no matter what else you can think about with your philosophy or your technique, which may be very nice, never forget that there's a human being suffering. So if someone has panic attacks every day, that's not a nice way to live. And if you have the ability and tools to balance them in such a way where they don't have panic attacks anymore, I mean, that's a godsend right there. If someone has migraine headaches 7 days a week, and they don't even want to be alive because it's just miserable to be alive, and then you interact with them in such a way that their head never hurts again, you've done a beautiful thing. So to me, the most important thing is remembering that there is a human being in front of you. This is not a game. They may be suffering greatly. I mean, you only see them for a few minutes a day or a week or twice a week or whatever. But they're probably putting on a bit of a happy face for you, or maybe not. But their life may be pure misery, and if you can interact with them in such a way to help them be happy and healthy, that should come before everything.
Love it. My turn, Nate?
Yeah, you're up.
Well, in hearing Pete say that, it really puts even more of an exclamation point on what I have really come to know as the most important thing for me, and that is to unconditionally love myself. And when he says, don't put anything in front of the understanding that this human being, with whatever their history, their past, their suffering is, I think when we don't learn how to cultivate and develop our own personal, unconditional love for ourselves, that's when those layers of things get in the way and get in between of truly seeing this person in front of you as such, as he eloquently stated. So it's really to clean the vessel to allow for the principles of healing and the essence and the way that we go about doing that to shine through very cleanly and purely and easily. So that's what I'd say.
I love it. How do you define? We were talking about healing principles, and I think the three of us would be in agreement that a lot of that shows up as results. How do you two define result practice in healing? How do you define what results are? And Dr. Pete, we're going to go to you first.
Okay. Well, results. I like very tangible before and afters. Let's take a simplistic thing. If someone comes in and says, "Hey, Dr. Nathan or Dr. Wade or Dr. Pete or anyone, I have so much pain over here. I can't even do one push-up. I mean, I can't do one push-up. I used to be able to do quite a few push-ups. I can't do any." And then you interact with them in such a way over 1 visit, 2 visits, 10 visits, whatever your thing is, and all of a sudden they're knocking out 50 push-ups a day. I mean, that's a pretty obvious result. They could do 0 push-ups. You did what you did. Now they can do 50. So when it comes to results, before and afters are great. Another example would be like, let's say someone comes to you with a weak bladder. Like, I keep peeing. I'm peeing all the time. I'm getting up like 7 times a night to pee. I'm peeing all day. I'm afraid to drink before. Well, you work on them for a certain amount of time, and then their bladder functions normally. It's a pretty obvious before and after. Their bladder was completely non-functional and non-healthy. They interacted with you in a certain way for a certain amount of time, and then their bladder is amazing. So for me, results are, it's a very easy question to answer. It's very obvious. It's very tangible, and you just look at where they're at before and where they're at after they've worked with you.
Dr. Wade?
Yeah, I really appreciate those. And that's why Pete and I resonate so well together, is because I really appreciate those examples that he used, because they're real life, everyday things that the public in large is experiencing. And what I have noticed is, at least the circles that I tend to run in the chiropractic student world, is most of, or at least the circles that I run in, are very interested in enlightenment. They're interested in soul exploration, and all this like really powerful, deep spiritual journeys and paths. And it's so easy to lose sight that that's not really what the general public is after. And so they just want to do a push-up, and they want to be able to pee correctly without having to feel this burning sensation all day long that distracts them just from simply doing simple things in life. And so that is something that I love to bring to our teachings, is to learn how to listen to people and their common everyday challenges that they face. And results are, for the person who can't wipe their own tush properly, all of a sudden they come in and say, man, I can wipe both hands, easy, front, back, whatever, it works. And that's quality of life really raising up for that person without needing them to understand neurophysiology and needing to understand what spinal neural integrity means or anything like that. Just help them have a sweeter life. I think we're getting back to, I know the Zone School is helping people get back to those everyday resolution of challenges that everyday people have. And I know I'm enjoying bringing that too as well.
I want to add one thing to that. Excellent. I agree with that 100%. I want to add one thing that popped in my head while Dr. Wade was talking. Like, I had a patient come to me, I think about 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And she was a little bit older. She had no kids. She was a little bit what you might call older to have a kid, but whatever. She went to the doctor, and I didn't even know this, but apparently the level of human growth hormone somehow gives an indication whether you can conceive or not. I was not aware of that, but she told me that they did her human growth hormone, and I don't remember the scale, but let's say it was like a 0 to 5, and it had to be like a 4 or above to conceive, something like that. And she was at like a 0.1. She was almost not on the scale. She was producing almost no human growth hormone in the test. And she came to me. Oh yeah, and then the doctor also told her, quote, "It would be basically a miracle for you to have a baby." That's what he said. So anyway, so I started working with her, and I mean, I'm, not everyone's familiar with what I do, but I told her that I think in the very near future she'll conceive. And in fact, I don't think I said I think. I said I expect you to conceive in the very near future and have a kid. And then we gave her an adjustment, one zone adjustment, which takes about a minute. And I think she came back for another. But anyway, she went and got her human growth hormone tested. And as odd as it might sound to some people, but if you understand some of the principles in zone school, she actually was off the scale. So I think she was like a 7. She went from a 0.1 to a 7, but she had, the normal is 5. And then she got pregnant, like, I think about a week later. And anyway, she has a kid now who I know because she gets adjusted and brings her kid. So anyway, so that's the kind of before and afters I'm talking about. If a doctor says to someone, quote, "It would be a miracle for you to conceive," and then in a very short time she's pregnant and has a happy, healthy kid, and she's a healthy mom with an easy delivery. Those are the kind of before and afters I'm interested in, the results.
I love it. What are the essential ingredients necessary to help facilitate those kind of results for people? Is it technique? Is it intention? Is it expectation? Is it the color I paint my walls? What is it that really is essential for that to happen?
Pete, I love when you break down the distinction between intention. Could you lay that on us real quick?
I was actually thinking of that as Dr. Nathan was asking, but I didn't know if I was supposed to answer every question first. But yeah. So actually, yeah, a lot of chiropractors and chiropractic students who are are in zone school and or ask me questions will say things like, "Hey, intention is very important," or healing is all about intention. And my answer is it's really not, because I'm hoping that every chiropractor has good intention. I'm hoping every chiropractic student has a good intention, or at least 98% of them really want to help people. So I think everyone has a pure, beautiful intention to help people. Really, it's intention plus the knowledge of the principles of healing that make one a great healer. And if you understand the principles of healing, or at least some of them, you can get amazing results. And of course, the intention, it's nice to have that as a nice foundation, a nice baseline. And then you add the principles of healing to that, an understanding of the principles of healing, and then an application of the principles of healing. And then you can do things that the world would call miracles. And at some point, not too long after you're doing it, they don't seem like miracles. And as a matter of fact, I had a woman come to me, I feel like, I don't know, less than 6 months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, I don't remember. But she was on a liver transplant list like that. That was her chief complaint. So like on her entrance form, it said she was on a liver transplant list and she wanted to keep her liver. That's why she came to me. And she also was having a lot of fluid in her abdomen. So she actually appeared to be pregnant, which she wasn't. But she had so much fluid buildup in her abdomen, and she was having her abdomen drained. I think it was weekly. It might have been more than weekly. But anyway, that was her two chief complaints, like to balance her body in such a way that her abdomen wouldn't keep filling up with fluid and needing draining, and also to do something in order for her liver to heal, so she would not need a liver transplant. So anyway, intention is a good start, or I don't really even think about it, but if you know how healing works, it's you can handle things like this. And anyway, what's interesting is I worked on her a few times, and I'll get back to that. And she went back to the doctor, and they said, we think it's a miracle. We're not exactly sure what happened, but your liver is totally healthy, and we're taking you off the liver transplant list because you don't need a liver transplant. Your liver is totally healthy, and also her abdomen went to the normal. Now, what's interesting is that took 3 visits, as strange as it might sound to some DCs who are unfamiliar with this stuff. And my first visit is about 10 minutes, and my follow-up visits are about 2 minutes each. The first visit, of the 10 minutes, 2 minutes was the zone adjustment. So for 3 2-minute adjustments, we accomplished that. But what I'm really bringing it up for, well, one, it's a cool story. It's inspiring, and that's what happened. But also the reason I bring it up is because for me, and I say this with all sincerity, if you're looking in my eyes when I'm talking, you see I'm sincere. For me, that's as easy as fixing a stiff neck. I mean, it really is. It's odd as it might sound to some DCs who are not familiar with this stuff. And as far as the amount of time, D.D. Palmer, he said that if it takes more than 5 visits to fix even the most so-called difficult case, you're doing something wrong, and to come back to him for a refresher course. That's what he told his graduates after they graduated the first Palmer School, which was established in 1897, 2 years after he discovered chiropractic. He said, hey, if it takes more than 5 visits, and these guys were dealing with epilepsy and diabetes and all these syphilis, and you read his book. Anyway, so the knowledge of the principles of healing will go a long way, and it's a real pleasure to understand them and work with it.
Pete, while we're kind of going there, can you go into a little bit of detail on the principles of healing that you're alluding to? Because it sounds like you're being able to accelerate results much, much faster than would be commonplace for most DCs.
One thing is, like I say from the bottom of my heart, and again, anyone who's looking in my eyes knows that I mean it. I really respect guys like yourself and Wade and, a lot of other people. So I'm always, there's many paths to success. For example, someone might love Tony Robbins and they don't like Eckhart Tolle, and someone might love Eckhart Tolle and they don't like Tony Robbins. But one person who really latches on to Tony Robbins' teaching can have a great life. They can be very happy and very healthy and very successful. And one person who latches on to Eckhart Tolle's type of teaching, they can have a great life too, and they can be happy and successful and peaceful. So there's many ways. With that said, I know Stevenson wrote that book. I think it's called The 33 Principles. I'm not really a big fan of that book. I have nothing against him. He probably was a really nice guy. He probably was a great chiropractor and probably helped a lot of people. But there's a lot of problems in that book when you understand healing at a higher level. And one of it is that all processes take time, because they don't. Number one, if one understands healing principles at a high level, time is an illusion anyway. Metaphysicians have been saying time is an illusion for thousands of years, and even quantum physicists have figured that out now. So the principles of healing, there's many of them, but one is that innate has to be contacted and directed to really produce the so-called miracles. I mean, to me, they're not miracles. They're just a day at the office. But what the world would call miracles, you have to know how to contact and direct innate. Innate is waiting there for you to tell it what to do. Now, often innate is contacted and directed in a negative way. Someone could go to a medical doctor. I'm not dissing medical doctors. I'm sure everyone's happy there's medical doctors. God forbid someone crashes on their motorcycle and they have to be sewn back together and have their life saved. I'm sure you're all happy there are medical doctors. So I'm not dissing medical doctors, but there's a lot of horrible ones at the same time. And some people go into a medical doctor's office and they have a rapport with that medical doctor because whatever they think about medical doctors, and they're wearing a nice white coat with their name in script and a stethoscope around their neck, and you think not me or you guys probably, but some people are very hypnotized by that. And the doctor might say, hey, you have 3 months to live. And if someone believes that, they'll probably die in exactly 3 months. And that actually is contacting and directing innate in a very negative way. The innate is wide open and will take that order and it will carry it out. However, if you know how to get a proper rapport with a patient, which is done through certain ways, then there's something called innate to innate communication. There's something called subconscious to subconscious communication. And when there's rapport, the ideas that you as the doctor hold in your subconscious, those ideas leave. The electrons leave your subconscious and they travel through the ether and they land in the subconscious of the patient. And that's one way to contact and direct innate, because the subconscious of the patient is where innate resides. And also, when you have rapport, there's something called the trap door, and it's between the patient's conscious and subconscious mind, and it swings open. And then when the doctor, like Dr. Wade, tells a patient, I understand your bladder has not worked for X amount of time, but I'm going to do X, Y, Z, for the next few weeks or whatever it is. I'm going to have you come here twice a week for the next few weeks. And I expect your bladder to work perfectly. Wade is telling them that conscious to conscious, and because they have a rapport with Wade, they have faith in Wade, their trap door is open. So when he says it, conscious to conscious, it goes right from their conscious into their subconscious, and that's where innate resides. And there are many great chiropractors and other great healers who have lived who are not familiar with this in the intricacies of it, but they've inadvertently tapped into it, and that's how innate is contacted and directed. Now, D.D. Palmer never talked about contacting and directing innate, but he did it all the time, and that's how he was able to fix syphilis and all this other stuff. And if you look at D.D. Palmer's book, most of his adjustments were one bone. He's like, syphilis, T9, prolapse uterus, L3, epilepsy, C3. So that's how that was done.
Wait, what do you want to sprinkle in there?
No, just what other questions you got?
Well, we started to talk about Didi. Pete mentioned Didi, and a question that I always like to ponder, and I know the three of us are kind of chiropractic nerds. From your perspectives, what did Didi envision chiropractic to be? What really fueled his drive with it? And are we as chiropractors living up to that? And Wade, I'm going to start with you on that one.
All right. Well, I've devoted my life in chiropractic to certainly largely taught and mentored by Arno in bringing a level of professionalism and, as I said earlier, like a seriousness to taking this thing really serious and developing a level of professionalism. And also Pasquale Cerasoli, another Brooklyn man, was a great teacher and mentor to me. And he really helped us to really help to return to the roots of chiropractic that Didi brought forth, that BJ had to kind of mechanize a bit so that it was teachable to people. But the classic cliche or saying from Didi to unite man physical with man spiritual. And that wasn't to assist man to transition from this life to the next life, but to assist man to transition in this life and to be able to access a frequency of vibration in this life, which is part of the original promise of chiropractic, which had gotten completely lost as a whole in the profession with, really mechanistic therapeutic models. And I know we'll probably talk about the distinction between treating a symptoms and helping to balance somebody's body out so well that they have resolution with those things manifesting as symptoms as their body has been unable to truly heal in a little bit. But that's what I see, that we're really assisting a return to the foundation of chiropractic, and that's tone. That is, and man, is there not a better time right now to understand that the frequency on this plane is shifting and changing, and our structure needs to shift along with it, and our ability to, harness a different vibration and frequency of healing and life is needed now more than ever. So what we're doing with MLS, what Pete's doing with Zone School is, it's time. It's time, and I think people are ready now almost more than ever for it.
So if I could just add to that excellent answer.
Please.
As far as Didi, I just want to go over some of the historical facts about Didi. I think it's just interesting, and I think it also pertains to the question a bit. So Didi Palmer, he was a magnetic healer, as we know, and he was really into spiritual stuff. So he would go to like seances, with psychic medium. That was his thing. And he was at one of these seances. It wasn't like he went to one. He went to a few, as far as I'm aware. And, the disembodied spirit of a medical doctor, I think his name was Jim Atkinson, told Didi Palmer at a seance, if people's bones are out of place, they're going to possibly be sick. So you should put their bones in place, take pressure off their nerves. So that's where he got the idea. It's on Wikipedia. It's not like some secret thing. I think if you look up like Didi Palmer on Wikipedia or chiropractic, it's right there. But anyway, so, your profession, all you guys, all you chiropractors and chiropractic students, your profession was based on some guy going to a seance, which I think is pretty cool. But anyway, so, he started getting these amazing results. The first patient we know is Harvey Lillard, and there's many different stories about, Didi Palmer wrote in his book it was T4. And then BJ Palmer said it was C2 because he was pushing the upper cervical agenda. And Didi wrote in another book, he's like, come on, my son was like 8 years old. What he was saying when he was 8 years old, he knew it was C2, give me a break. It was T4. But anyway, it doesn't really matter what going on. Anyway, so then he was getting all these great results. The second patient after Harvey Lillard had, I think it was angina, had heart problems or pain in his chest. And he adjusted him, I guess, T2, and that went away. So Didi Palmer didn't quite understand what he invented. So I think Samuel Weed was his friend or patient or whatever. He was like an ancient language guy, and he knew a few languages. So he said, you should name it chiropractic. It means done by hand in Greek. He spoke Greek. I guess that was one of the languages he knew. I don't know if he spoke Greek, but he knew enough. And then, not many people know this, but theosophy, or maybe people know it, theosophy, which is an interesting metaphysical study. I've read quite a bit of theosophy. It's okay. Madame Blavatsky and Annie Besant and Leadbeater, all these guys were interesting teachers of metaphysics. Anyway, so there was a guy, I think his name was Colville. Last name was Colville, I think. And he was a theosophist, and he was friends with Didi Palmer. Didi Palmer's like, I don't even understand what I did here. I don't even understand what I invented. Like, this is working really good. And then there's some of the old writings of Didi Palmer. They're talking about like the speed of which nerves travel. They're trying to figure out like really what's going on. And that really wasn't based on science. I'm not saying it was wrong, but it was actually based on theosophy. So if you look at some of the old writings of Didi Palmer, like when he puts like a little like kind of like not a chart, but some of the things with chiropractic, it'll say like biology, theology, and he actually puts theosophy. Like he actually gives credit to theosophy for some of his original ideas about what he even did. And if you look at in 1910, well, first of all, in 1897, well, 1895, when he made chiropractic, he didn't want to teach it to anyone. He was very protective of it. But in 1897, he gave in and he made the school. And I find this very interesting. So here's how his school was. So he's standing up there, D.D. Palmer, 1897. He's surrounded by, his students. Some were medical doctors, some were osteopaths, some were just lay people. And he would talk about the big idea, what he called the big idea. And when they stood up, they'd be like, hey, I got the big idea. They just stand up. I got the big idea. That was like how they graduated. Oh, okay, you got the big idea? You're graduated. You can get out of here. And he'd give them a little diploma and send them on their way. That was Palmer School, 1897, 1898, etc. Now, what's interesting is they didn't have a lot of books on anatomy and physiology and neurology. And he actually called it racking bones back in place. But these guys were adjusting for, like I said, the hardcore, like the syphilis and the diabetes and the epilepsy and things like that. So it's just interesting that that's kind of how the profession started out. And if you go a little farther after that, in 1910, D.D. Palmer wrote the Chiropractor's Adjuster. Now, a lot of people, when they hear Chiropractor's Adjuster, they think, oh, he must be telling people how to adjust. But actually, if you read the beginning, he said, I am not teaching you how to adjust. I'm actually adjusting your mind, because you actually, in the 15 years from 1895 to 1910, you guys have forgot what chiropractic even is. So he wrote a book called The Chiropractor's Adjuster to adjust the minds of the chiropractors. And in that book, he has a 55-page glossary of diseases. You can check it out. About 500 diseases with all the symptoms listed and what bone to adjust to fix it. Now, like Dr. Nathan alluded to before, or Dr. Wade did, I'm sorry, was he saying to treat symptoms, adjust symptoms, treat disease? No, he wasn't. He was saying to adjust the cause, which in his idea was a subluxation, to help the body heal. With that said, he listed the disease, listed the symptoms, and told you what bone to adjust to fix it. So anyone these days who's a chiropractor or a chiropractic student who's afraid to talk about symptoms or disease with their patients, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it ain't chiropractic. Because chiropractic, no one can define chiropractic but D.D. Palmer. No one's allowed. No one. He founded it. He said what it is. He defined it. And in his book, he's like, oh, here's the disease. Here's the symptoms. Adjust this bone. It'll fix it. Now, of course, he's not treating the symptom. He's adjusting the cause. And he's saying once the cause is adjusted, that will go away and they'll be healthy. So interesting ideas about D.D. Palmer. I think it's nice of us as chiropractors and chiropractic students to know the history.
For sure. And one thing that I know we've talked about, Wade and I have talked about, is almost honoring what the symptomatology is, but framing it in a positive, bringing back to balance. Can you talk about that for 30 seconds?
Sure. I'll get it in 30 seconds.
All right.
So I would say, or something like that. Just tell me when the 30 seconds is up. But I would say that patient comes in, they tell me they have, IBS. I go, well, what are your symptoms? Oh, they tell me about their digestion. Okay, well, your body's not balanced, so I can understand that you have those symptoms. However, we're going to balance your body, and then you're going to digest your food perfectly.
Beautiful. Dr. Pete, where can people find you if they want to learn more about the healing principles you talk about, the zone technique? Where can they find you?
So if you're a chiropractor or you're a chiropractic student, you're welcome to join Zone School. We have almost 700 DCs and DC students worldwide. You go to zonetechnique.com, zonetechnique.com, and you can check out what the Zone School is about. And then within the website, zonetechnique.com, somewhere on the front page, somewhere on the homepage, it says join Zone School or enroll in Zone School, something like that. And you click right there and you can enroll in Zone School. Now, let me say one thing. That is for DCs. If you're a DC student and you want to join Zone School, you can still go to the website, but don't click that link because we have a discount for DC students. So if you're a DC student and you want to join Zone School, send me an email, drpete@zonetechnique.com, drpete@zonetechnique.com, and say, hey, I'm a DC student. I want to join Zone School. I would like the discount link for DC students. If you're a chiropractor, you can just join right off the site.
Awesome. Wade, you still there?
Yes.
Where can people find more about, connect with you, MLS?
We are putting on programs all around the world, from the U.S., Canada, South America.
we're looking at Mexico, Europe, certainly Germany and Spain and France currently. And DCs and students from all over are taking these programs and elevating their level of success and satisfaction in practice and in life as we dive into these principles of healing. We dive into the application with their own two hands, what is true and available and right in chiropractic, and what the promise is that we don't always deliver on. And so these professional trainings have been such a blessing to so many people and have shaped this profession in a large way based on the work that Arno Burnier has brought to us. And it is a privilege and a joy to share this with the profession, with the people of this great world, and see them go out and really light up and shine with purpose, with passion, and a level of mastery. And can't wait to see them there. Thanks, Nick.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pete, Dr. Wade, for showing up and giving tonight. We will be sure to include links in the description for the replay of where you can contact Dr. Pete, Dr. Wade, MLS Seminars, Zone Technique, and we'll go from there. Thank you to everyone who spent time with us this evening. It was a real pleasure having you here, and hopefully you got some amazing takeaways. And the best way you can thank Dr. Wade and Dr. Pete is to put this in play in your service to people, and we look forward to hearing about the amazing results you facilitate for people and helping people truly reconnect man the physical with man the spiritual and bring people back to balance. Thank you so much.